Imagine a world frozen in tradition. Then, suddenly, a spark. A spark that set off a wildfire of creativity, discovery, and ambition, forever changing how we see, think, and rule. Back then, art wasn't about life. It was about the afterlife. Paintings were flat, stiff, serious. The goal wasn't realism, it was to tell sacred stories. But then, something incredible happened. Scholars dusted off ancient Greek and Roman texts, treasures from Constantinople, and found a whole different world. One obsessed with realism, proportion, and balance. Artists and writers saw new possibilities. Humanism took hold. Thinkers said, let's celebrate the human experience, study poetry, philosophy, history, not just to honor the gods, but to understand ourselves. During the Renaissance, artists didn't just improve their skills, they completely transformed the way people saw art. This was a time of incredible innovation, where painters and sculptors became almost like scientists, experimenting with new techniques and ideas. They were obsessed with understanding how the world really looked and how to capture that on a flat surface. One of the biggest breakthroughs was perspective. Before this, paintings often looked flat and unrealistic. But with the discovery of linear perspective, artists could finally create the illusion of depth and space. Suddenly, a road could stretch off into the distance, or a building could loom up in the background, just like in real life. This made their work feel so much more real and immersive, drawing viewers right into the scene. Another game-changer was chiaroscuro, the dramatic use of light and shadow. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Caravaggio mastered this technique, using it to give their subjects a sense of volume and drama. With chiaroscuro, faces glowed, objects popped, and every fold of fabric seemed to have weight and texture. It was almost like magic, making the figures leap off the canvas. Thanks to these innovations, a simple wall could be transformed into a breathtaking illusion, a window into another world, filled with light, space, and life. The Renaissance truly changed the way we experience art forever. Let's talk about the giants, the three artists who didn't just redefine art, but reshaped how we think about beauty, power, and the human soul. Leonardo da Vinci, he was the ultimate Renaissance man. Painter, inventor, scientist, you name it. He studied anatomy obsessively, filling notebook after notebook with precise sketches of muscles, veins, and bones. His art, like the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, captured human emotion in a way no one had before. But his influence goes beyond paintings. His design ideas, for helicopters, robots, even underwater breathing devices, inspired generations of engineers and visionaries. Today, Leonardo represents the gold standard of what it means to be creative across disciplines. Michelangelo took stone and made it speak. His sculpture of David shows not just physical strength, but inner courage. A young man standing against overwhelming odds. And then there's the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Painted mostly lying on his back, he turned a blank ceiling into a swirling epic of divine power and human struggle. Michelangelo's ability to express both strength and vulnerability still influences everything from superhero design to fine art today. Raphael, often the quietest of the three, was the master of harmony. His masterpiece, The School of Athens, captures the Renaissance spirit, ancient philosophers in a grand architectural setting, all arranged with perfect balance and grace. Raphael's compositions taught generations of artists how to create visual order, clarity, and emotional resonance. His work lives on in classrooms, galleries, and graphic design to this day. Together, these three didn't just paint pictures. They redefined what it meant to be an artist, and they continue to shape how we see and create art in the modern world. The Middle Ages focused on salvation. The Renaissance? Well, it celebrated this world. Art wasn't just for churches anymore. Now it was for city halls, public squares, and private homes. Realism in paintings, lighting in movies, and even the way we frame a photo today, all of it, honestly, traces back to Renaissance breakthroughs. Before the Renaissance, science was kind of locked up, bound by ancient books and, a real fear of questioning authority. But curiosity doesn't stay caged for long. With new ideas flowing, people started asking, what if we look for ourselves? What if we test instead of trust? Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just painting masterpieces, he was redefining what it meant to be an artist, a scientist, and an inventor all at once. In the heart of Renaissance Italy, his studio was alive with creativity, filled with the scent of oil paints and the quiet hum of apprentices learning from a true genius. Every brushstroke was a study in light, shadow, and anatomy, as Leonardo sought to capture not just the appearance but the very soul of his subjects. But Leonardo's curiosity didn't stop at the canvas. He was fascinated by the human body, and to truly understand it, he dissected corpses in secret, meticulously recording his findings. His anatomical sketches were centuries ahead of their time, revealing muscles, bones, and organs with astonishing accuracy. These studies weren't just scientific, they were works of art in their own right, blending observation with imagination. Leonardo's mind soared beyond the limits of his era. He envisioned flying machines, sketched out the first concepts for helicopters, and even designed armored vehicles that looked like early tanks. These inventions, drawn centuries before they could be built, showed a mind that was always reaching for the impossible, always asking, what if? Leonardo's notebooks were more than just journals. They were treasure troves of ideas, filled with sketches, inventions, and observations about the world. Written in his unique mirror script, these pages captured the dreams of a man who saw the future before anyone else could even imagine it. His legacy? A blueprint for innovation that still inspires us today. Nicholas Copernicus flipped the universe on its head. He said the Earth wasn't the center. The sun was. Just one idea, and suddenly everything we knew about space collapsed, making way for a bigger, more wondrous universe. Vesalius rolled up his sleeves, literally. He dissected cadavers himself, proving that ancient medical texts were dead wrong. His work changed medicine forever, making it a science based on observation, not tradition. Galileo Galilei, often called the father of modern science, was a man whose curiosity knew no bounds. In the early 17th century, he crafted a homemade telescope, a simple yet revolutionary device that would forever change our understanding of the universe. With this instrument, Galileo did what no one had done before. He turned his gaze skyward, determined to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. Night after night, he pointed his telescope to the heavens, peering into the vast darkness above. What he saw was astonishing. He observed the rugged surface of the moon, shattering the old belief that celestial bodies were perfect spheres. He discovered 4 moons orbiting Jupiter, proving that not everything revolved around the Earth. Galileo also noticed mysterious dark spots moving across the face of the sun, sunspots, showing that even our star was not immutable. He sketched these observations meticulously, providing evidence that the universe was far more dynamic and complex than anyone had imagined. Most importantly, Galileo championed the radical idea that the Earth was not the center of the universe. He supported the heliocentric model, which placed the sun at the center, challenging centuries of tradition and dogma. For daring to speak the truth and defend his discoveries, Galileo faced fierce opposition from powerful authorities. He was summoned before the Inquisition, forced to recant, and spent his final years under house arrest. Yet, he never stopped searching for answers. Despite persecution, Galileo's courage and groundbreaking work laid the foundation for modern physics and astronomy. His legacy endures, inspiring generations to question, to observe, and to seek the truth about our place in the universe. The Renaissance gave us more than inventions. It gave us a whole new way to think. The scientific method. Observe, question, test, repeat. Today's science, from cancer research to Mars exploration, stands on the shoulders of these fearless thinkers. They cracked open the world and really dared to ask, what else is out there? Renaissance Italy wasn't peaceful. It was a brutal chessboard of city-states. Florence, Milan, Venice, all vying for power. In this ruthless world, Niccolò Machiavelli realized something uncomfortable. In politics, being good wasn't enough. You had to be smart, and sometimes ruthless. In The Prince, Machiavelli pulled back the curtain. He showed rulers how the real game was played, how appearances mattered, and how fear could be more useful than love. These weren't just characters in history books. They were power players who knew how to control armies, influence popes, and shape cities. Take Cesare Borgia, the son of Pope Alexander VI. He wasn't just a nobleman, he was a military commander, a strategist, and the inspiration for Machiavelli's The Prince. Cesare used charm and terror in equal measure, conquering central Italy with both sword and diplomacy. He embodied the perfect mix of brains and brutality. Then there were the Medici, Florence's banking dynasty. They didn't just fund the Renaissance, they orchestrated it. Cosimo de' Medici turned his wealth into influence, acting as a shadow ruler behind the scenes. His grandson, Lorenzo the Magnificent, became a patron to the likes of Botticelli, Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci. They made Florence a cultural superpower and used art, money, and marriage to stay on top. Why do they matter today? Because they pioneered the idea of soft power, using influence, image, and legacy to control hearts and minds. Whether it's sponsoring art or manipulating politics, the game they played is still being played today, just on bigger stages, with newer tools. Today, Machiavellian still describes cunning leaders. Love him or hate him, Machiavelli changed how we understand power forever. The Renaissance didn't end, it lives on. In every artist who challenges the norm, every scientist who questions the impossible, every leader who shapes the future. Subscribe for more hidden history.